Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time here from the Tampa Bay airport after what is yet another demoralizing loss by the Tennessee Titans. Hope everybody is surviving their Sunday afternoon well. We are certainly going to talk about this game together for the next couple of minutes before I catch my flight back to Nashville and we see if this team can't pick up the pieces from where it has been. We're going to go through what happened today against the Bucs. We'll talk about Will Levis's performance in particular, and then we'll try and wrap things up with on a little brighter note with some Sunday Fun Day discussion. Before we do that, I need you guys to share the broadcast around while we're here in Tampa on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Wherever you're hanging out with us, we always appreciate when you share this show. If you're on Facebook Live, you can share not a public, like Corey D. Jackson, who says safe travels, my guy. Much appreciated. If you're on YouTube, like TK or Borkington, Buck, who just says, Buck, the team sucks. Yes, the football team does indeed suck. But there's a far bigger concern at this point than the football team sucking that we are going to have to get into at great length this evening. Carl says, are you still in Tampa? Yes, I'm sitting at the airport. My flight leaves in an hour and 20 minutes, but you know I couldn't leave you hanging, so we had to jump in here and have our discussion together. Stephen King says, Buck looks like he's in a big tank. Well, no tanking going on. I think you just genuinely still have a bad football team. But we'll work through those things together. Share, not a public. That is in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, wherever it is that you are hanging out with us. Retweet us in the bottom right and like the video if you're on YouTube as well. Team is devoid of talent, says AC720. Yes, they are a bad football team and lost to a bad football team today. They continue to lose for two bad football teams because they appear to be among the worst football teams, which is a discussion that I was not sure that we were going to have and that I was kind of teetering on prior to this game against Tampa Bay. As I did the Lee Company countdown to kick, well, let's go ahead and get this primetime show started. Feel a little bit out of my element doing this in the airport, but we'll figure it out together. Welcome into A to Z Sports Primetime from not the Zen Sports Studio, but from whatever the Tampa Bay airport is called. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the great folks at the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. AmandaJGentry.com is where you go for your constitutional rights to be protected. Amanda J. and her team have you covered. AmandaJGentry.com. Of course, you know that True Math Fitness in the Gulch hooks you up with the best workout in Middle Tennessee. TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free, and Zen Sports, where you can go to wager on all your favorite football games, even if you're fading your favorite football team. Zen Sports has you covered. Promo code ATOZTN for your $1,000 no danger first wager in the app. They'll hook it up. So before I catch my flight back to Nashville, we got to talk about this godforsaken football team because they were wretched today against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The offense was, beyond the first drive, the offense was putrid. But that's not even like the biggest concern for me at this point. The bigger concern for me is the fact that this quarterback continues to get just absolutely brutalized back there. And that's where we're going to start with your Two Rivers Ford take on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. How do you feel about the Titans' ability to protect Will Levis for the rest of this season? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. It's your Two Rivers Ford take. How do you feel about the Titans' ability? How confident are you in the Titans' ability to keep Will Levis safe for the remainder of this season? In the comments section is where you can interact with that. Of course, your Two Rivers Ford take, made possible by the great people at Two Rivers Ford, powered by Ford, driven by people. So this Titans lose 20-6 today. They missed Nick. They couldn't even hit all their field goals, right? Nick Folk, the one thing that they can consistently rely upon. They tried to get a 51-yard field goal in there because they didn't want to go for it on 4th and 2. They made a decision not to go for it on 4th and 2, which was questioned, and you'll hear from Will Levis and DeAndre Hopkins here in just a little bit on all of that. But they go for the 51-yard field goal. They don't get it. They have another opportunity late in the game to go for it on 4th and 9 when they are obviously in 4-down territory. Instead, they take a field goal. They play conservative. They're down 14. They're down by 2 possessions the entire time. The whole reason you go for it on 4th and 2 and then try and go for it on 4th and 9 is so that you're not trailing by 2 touchdowns the entire time, and taking the field goals kept them in that in that hole, trailing by 14, because what did Tampa do right after they kicked the field goal? March right down the field, didn't get a touchdown, but got a field goal and kept the lead where it needed to be. Ben Hall says, Jesus, there were just so many times as soon as the ball was snapped, a defender in the backfield. How the hell do you run an offense with that? Well, you don't. I mean, you don't. You just saw that today. You do not run an offense with that. And, you feel bad about the situation because, again, I have no doubt in my mind that Andrew Rupchich, and who many of you questioned his even existence today. You said, when I said that Andrew Rupchich was going in at right guard after Andre Dillard got a concussion, I think 17 snaps into the game. And so then Radens, who started at right guard for Daniel Brunskill, had to be moved to left tackle. Andrew Rupchich, who is active for his first NFL game as a 2022 undrafted rookie free agent, goes in there at right guard. And, it looks the way that you would imagine that it would look if they're down to their 8th and 9th offensive linemen, and this thing continues to spiral. So with all of this situation that you have, you're trying to piecemeal this thing together. And we knew that this was going to be the case all year long, but we didn't realize how much worse they would look as a football team than they did last year. It's a disaster scenario for the Tennessee Titans. And, now it becomes about at 3-6, where you're the only team under 500 in the AFC South. Texans won today. Colts won today. Jags got smoked today, but still are over 500 and in a pretty comfortable lead in the division, though Houston and Indianapolis are pushing them. You know who's not pushing them? The Tennessee Titans, because they are at the bottom of the rung. They are 15th right now in the AFC among 16 teams. The only team that's worse by record than the Tennessee Titans is the New England Patriots, who are an absolute atrocity and should probably be relegated from the National Football League this season. But I think ultimately what this season now becomes is about just trying to keep Levis safe. Guys, when I give you the numbers on this, it's going to make you sick. And I'm going to do so you're going to hear from Will Levis as well, right after I remind you that the Primetime Show is presented by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry, wherever justice demands. Amanda J. and her team have you covered. Go to amandajgentry.com, and she will get your constitutional rights protected, particularly your constitutional right to be a father to your child. amandajgentry.com for more information. So I wrote this down and I put it in an article for A to Z Sports. Here is the damage that they are doing to this rookie quarterback. Okay. He was 19 of 39 today, 199 yards and an interception. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass since he threw 4 against Atlanta, right? And we know that he's up against it, and we know that he's been under duress. But when you put the 4 touchdown performance next to the other 2, if you were box score scouting the dude, you might look at it and say, well, he's hit a bit of a rookie wall or something like that. And that ignores the entire situation of the offensive line, which just continues to fall back on top of him every time they drop back to pass. They can't execute anything at all. And it is incredibly frustrating to watch because there is a giant lack of talent around him. And the evaluation of Will Levis has become almost impossible. I can't say that the quarterback had a good or bad day because they can't do anything as an offense with an offensive line like that. So 2 interceptions in the last 2 weeks, which are just, by the way, he's only turning it over because they're desperately trying to come back in this game, and he's just got to push the ball down the field. In the losses to Pittsburgh and Tampa, he has been hit 32 times. 32 times in 3 starts. He's averaging over 10 QB hits a game. Sacked 4 times today by the Bucs. 4 more on Thursday Night Football against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he was sacked twice by Atlanta. It's a disaster situation for Will Levis, and they have to find ways to keep him upright because that's all that matters this season at this point. Not whether Derrick Henry is on the roster in 2023, not whether the Titans need to fire Mike Vrabel at the end of the year. The only thing that matters is keeping Will Levis safe. Ronnie Seeds says the Titans stink, simple and plain. Yes, true. There is nothing inaccurate about that statement. 32 times is ridiculous, says Harry T-Dub on YouTube. Should not have gotten rid of Dobbs, says Grizzly Gang, which has absolutely nothing to do with the situation. What does Josh Dobbs have to do? Does Josh Dobbs block for the quarterback? No. Does Josh Dobbs catch passes? No. Josh Dobbs has absolutely nothing to do with your situation. You would not be a better football team because you know what Josh Dobbs would be doing? Dying behind this offensive line the same way that Tannehill did and Will Levis did and Malik Willis did. Like, this is honestly, of all the comments to put in here, and we're not going to get bogged down with a comment that is completely irrelevant to the situation, but like how you come away watching that football game and say, oh yeah, Josh Dobbs would fix this. Like, what kind of dumb shit crosses your mind when that thought enters your brain? Of course, Josh Dobbs has nothing to do with the current predicament of the Tennessee Titans. Michael Williams says, how much does Tannehill cost? He's pretty affordable given the rest of the starting quarterbacks around the league. And you know what? I bet Ryan Tannehill, I don't think he'd ever admit it publicly. I know he would never admit it publicly, but I bet that dude is glad that he's not back there behind that offensive line anymore because they're getting people destroyed. Will Levis got hit on every drop back, got crushed on some of the dropbacks that he was trying to execute. Hell, that play action pass sack that he took early in the game where he's trying to roll out and immediately Devin White is in his face. This is an unsustainable situation, an untenable situation for any quarterback. This is like New England. It is impossible for you to play quarterback in this system with the offensive line group that you have. Spencer Haney says, how can Vrabel allow this shit? It's unreal. This is why our guys get hurt. What do you mean? How does he allow this shit? What is he going to do? Is Mike going to go in there and play? Like, this is the thing, Spencer. Like, you can bitch about Vrabel and you can bitch about Tim Kelly and all these different things. They don't play left tackle. They don't play left guard. They don't play center. And by the way, Peter Skoronski, the only redeemable thing that you have about this offensive line group is out there fighting for his life, and he's one of five. So, like, to look around and say, how can Vrabel allow this shit? I don't understand what you want Mike Vrabel to do. Like, I feel like I'm walking into these press conferences with so little to ask Mike because it's like, okay, Mike, quarterback got hit a bunch again. What are you going to do about it? And he said, well, we're not executing. Well, that much is evident. What are you going to do about it? I don't know. We just have to find ways to execute. Okay. They can't get any more offensive linemen in the middle of the season. It's after tomorrow's Monday Night Football game, it'll be week 11. Nicholas G. Roberts says, we want them to coach and develop them. Do you understand who played for your football team today? Andre Dillard, who cannot get on the field, who nobody else wanted, and who you desperately needed to sign because you just needed to put a body left tackle. Again, Skoronski's a first-round pick, fine. Brewer, undrafted rookie free agent out of Texas State. Rupchich, undrafted rookie free agent out of I don't know where the hell, but he just got here last year, and already he's making his NFL debut. Like, to understand what's wrong with your football team, start with the roster, start with the offensive line, and understand that to coach and develop them, this is what they look like coached and developed. Like, I don't understand how you could look at the roster and come away and say, well, we want to coach and develop them. Buddy, this is what it looks like with the coaching and the development. So like that to me, and that's fine if that's, something that hadn't occurred to you or something that you hadn't thought about, but with as many day 3 picks and undrafted dudes as they're trotting out there, half the roster, like the idea that there's some kind of coach and development situation for Rupchich and Radens Radens was a second-round draft pick and he can't play. I mean, you saw him at left tackle today. He's a turnstile. There's just so much damage here that is not correctable. And I think we're finally at the point where, they haven't acknowledged this, but like the situation for them is not correctable on the offensive line. So now it just becomes the quarterback development. Nicholas goes on to add, because the issue isn't coaching, GTFOH, dude. No, I'm not saying that the issue isn't coaching. I'm just saying that there are equal parts. There are plenty of parts to parse blame. Okay. And you can blame the coaching staff as much as you want. But at the end of the day, you're looking at the players that you have, and you're putting Vita Vea against Andrew Rupchich. You're putting Joe Tryon against Dylan Radens. These things are not the same, right? The Titans are about the only lopsided score in the NFL today. Why? Because they're one of the least talented teams in football. Like all these other teams, you see, Washington was 26. I just saw a score on the way over here, and I got to wrap up because I need to catch my flight here in about an hour. But let me quickly remind you before I get further into this, that the Primetime Show is made possible by Zen Sports. A to Z TN is the promo code. $1,000 no danger first wager. Plug that promo code in. Get that $1,000 no danger first wager. Terms and conditions do apply. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789. So the level of talent on this roster is, if not the worst in the league, down there. Okay. So to say that the roster and the inability and the talent deficit between teams who are operating at a average NFL level, between a team like the Bucs, are not a good football team. The Bucs are not an overwhelmingly well-coached football team. The Bucs scored 20 points today and beat you. Are you after the Bucs about their level of coaching? Probably not, because I think because they are not working with the same mismatched, trash bin full of parts that the Titans have pulled players out of to try and put together a competent roster. I think that when you look at what this team needs to do, it's a full roster overhaul beyond Will Levis and DeAndre Hopkins, frankly, and Jeff Simmons for obvious reasons. But the rest of it, I'm pretty comfortable in saying that they turned over 55% of the roster this year. I would imagine it would be a lot more next year for them trying to piecemeal this thing together. Didn't work in a variety of different areas. Now it becomes about keeping Levis safe. I think that it's like, so just to kind of put it in, let me put it in a better context, because I understand that people are frustrated with a lot of different things. And for me to say, well, it's not completely the coaching or completely the players. And then you're saying, what is it? Well, I'm saying it's the whole thing, right? It's the whole thing that is a mess. No quarterback is overcoming that offensive line situation. It's like watching the Patriots and saying, well, Mac Jones needs to play better. Why aren't they developing Mac Jones? Have you seen what Mac Jones is playing with? What Mac Jones is up against? It's untenable. It's completely untenable. Mac Jones is honestly in a worse situation than Will Levis. The only reason that Will Levis is in a decent situation is because he has a league average play caller who's got a shitty offensive line and can't score in the red zone when they get down to it. It's like, Nicholas, let's just say, I mean, obviously an undrafted rookie free agent in the NFL is further than I ever personally made it. But like, let's say that something happened to me, right? Something happened to me and we picked a random person out of the chat here because you guys watch your football team and somebody would be able to, somebody thinks that they would be able to come in here and talk for how long I've been talking, 17 minutes up to an hour about your football team to remember all the things that you needed to remember to get through a show and all these different things. It's like taking one of you out of the chat, dropping you in here in the middle of a live stream and saying, all right, go get them. Talk. What do you mean? That's the level of incompetency that the Titans offensive line is currently dealing with. And the risk that they run is ruining that quarterback, because the worst thing that you can possibly do with Will Levis at this point in his career is allow him to continue to take those kind of hits. 32 in 3 games. What was it? 10 sacks in these 3 games, and understand that he has to be protected at all costs. He's the only viable thing that they have beyond DeAndre Hopkins. And the only reason that DeAndre Hopkins is viable is because they think they have a quarterback. So there's so many different things that are being amplified right now. And it comes down to the fact that they can't score in the red zone. That's the thing that ultimately is their catch-22, or not catch-22. That's the wrong use of that phrase, but you understand. The core of their issue is talent. And the talent is, Will Levis is not enough to overcome the entirety of talent deficiency. Isn't that Vrabel's job, says Spencer Haney? Yeah, sure. But again, Spencer, all the coaching in the world in 2 days, or like Rupchich, who's just active for the first time in an NFL game, all the coaching in the world for Rupchich would not equip him to competently play right guard today on short notice because Andre Dillard got a concussion. All the coaching in the world, Spencer, would not allow you to come in here and do the job that I do, or that, what other talking head, if you wanted to talk sports for a living, the Dan Orlovsky, like somebody else on ESPN, not to use me as an example, but like, all the coaching in the world isn't going to get you ready, Spencer, in 10 minutes to drop in here and do a live stream. Like, you can't realistically expect that, understanding the degree of difficulty that comes along with some of the stuff that these guys are being asked to do. It's not feasible. And I by the way, I'm not saying that Mike Vrabel is blameless here. I thought the coaching, the level of coaching conservatism today is enough to infuriate you. And that's just somebody sitting who's just watching football, not even as a fan. Like, I can't imagine what you guys are thinking when they kick that field goal or miss that field goal after not going for it on 4th and 2, or when in 4-down territory on 4th and 9, trailing by 2 touchdowns, they kick a field goal. Like, that's on the coach. You have to do this thing by degrees, but you have to be realistic about where everything is right now and what is actually to blame for some of the problems that you're having. All right, let's keep it moving here on the Primetime Show. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Well, actually, let's hear from Will Levis, who, of course, was under duress a great amount today, who's really the only thing that's not a problem with the football team. In fact, you'll hear from 2 of them, Will Levis and DeAndre Hopkins. But first, here was Levis at the podium.
I mean, it's just tough as an offense as a whole. I mean, we just got to do a better job, each and every one of us, looking introspectively what we can do better. I mean, for me, knowing that, if we have these games where we feel in the flow, if they're on us a little bit quicker, then maybe just, getting through my reads a little faster, getting the ball out sooner. But, I mean, it's hard to kind of change the thought process like mid-game, but there's definitely things I could have done that could have helped.
It felt like you guys did have that flow on the first drive and kind of stalled out in the red zone. What came to pass there?
Yeah, I mean, it just sucks, like getting down there and doing all that work. Then, I mean, we love points. We're never going to turn down points, but we love touchdowns more, obviously. And I got to do a better job stepping up there on that 3rd down, just hanging on a route that was taking a little bit too long, knowing that I'm off time to be able to step up, knowing that probably going to be got rushers coming around the edge. But that's an example of how I could have helped us out there.
You said it's tough to.
So he's sitting there talking about, things that Will Levis can do better and talk. I mean, God love him. He's out there trying, and, he's accountable. They are all accountable about how bad they are. And I heard somebody earlier say, somebody has to have answers. Brother, I'm giving you the answers. The answers is they stink. The answer is they stink. Like, they're bad. They can't fix anything about how bad the talent is. And I understand that that's, irritating to you because you still have 8 more games, and whether you choose to watch the 8 more games of this or not, entirely up to you. I'm going to be on the road for all of them. We'll be covering it and talking about it because Levis is the only reason why the season is now viable for me, for you, and for them, and anybody else in between. But like, if you're out here looking for answers, you have your answers. Your football team stinks. The fact that they can't get better is all the answers that you need to know. So what do you want the coach to tell you? What do you want the quarterback to tell you? Mike's not going to get up there and be like, yeah, the roster sucks. We're on to next season. Of course not. You would lose your shit. Of course you would. Anyway, let's keep it moving. You'll hear from DeAndre Hopkins here in just a little bit. The Primetime Show is made possible by True Math Fitness in the Gulch. Go to truemathfitness.com. Working out makes you feel better. It'll make you happier. It'll get your it's not serotonin, whatever the good vibes are, the good chemicals that are produced when you work out. truemathfitness.com has you covered for your first workout free. A new way to work out for the best version of you. Go to True Math Fitness in the Gulch, downtown Nashville. As I said, tell our buddy Worth Campbell that Worth, also a long-suffering Titans fan. He was drinking a lot of bourbon today, based on what I saw on Instagram. But as you look at the kind of situation that the Titans now have moving forward, DeAndre Hopkins is one of the only things on the roster that can help Will Levis in the position that he's in. And so as you look at that kind of support that he has or doesn't has, because Derrick Henry without an offensive line is not viable at this point. Tajay Spears was a more effective player for the Tennessee Titans today than was Derrick Henry. Think about that. And I know that's going to drive a lot of you crazy, but that's what it is. Endorphins. Thank you, David Brown. Endorphins is the one. Serotonin. What is serotonin? Serotonin, the thing that makes you sleepy? Either way. Endorphins. Feel good. Workout. So we asked DeAndre Hopkins about how you kind of keep guys head above water, because he's been on bad football teams before. He's lived a lot of this. He's been on good football teams. He's been on bad football teams. He's played with good quarterbacks. He's played with really, really bad quarterbacks. And so DeAndre Hopkins, ignore the yawn, because honestly, I shouldn't have posted the part where he yawned, because I should have just cropped it, and because it makes him look more checked out than he obviously is. But DeAndre Hopkins was asked about a lot of the problems the Titans are having and how he, as a veteran coming into this situation, kind of helps keep guys' heads up.
What's the toughest part of that for you guys? It's sort of that, especially on the road, that just getting 7 points instead of 3.
I was backing up, so y'all that's cool.
What's the most important part about just trying to get 7 points instead of 3 in those cases?
3 points, obviously, against a team like this is going to win your game, and you've seen that today. So really, not too much to speak on that.
How do you keep
frustration from building, DeAndre, as you guys now 3-6 and really needing to win?
Trying to go out and get a win. We got Carolina this week. We got to flip the page. Got to turn the page. Can't dwell on the record right now. It's the league. It's the NFL. You never know what can happen. So no one has just flat out won the Super Bowl. So just got to keep pushing.
And is there any sense that guys are doing that, dwelling on the record?
No, I don't think so. I don't think anyone's dwelling on the record. I feel like guys out there playing. Obviously, there are plays that we got to make. There's mistakes that we can't make. Everybody holds themselves accountable, I feel like, and hopefully we can go out and put a complete game against Carolina.
Bert and I keep trying to take the video in, put the video back out. So that's DeAndre Hopkins, and he obviously didn't mean to say Carolina. He meant Jacksonville there, because Trippin' Titans immediately says, well, can the Titans beat Carolina? The Panthers are the worst team in football. The Bears are bad. The Patriots are bad. The Titans are, I think the Titans belong in that same classification. I do think you're a better football team than Carolina. That's about the only team that I think you're better than. I'm willing to say that the Titans are better than the Panthers and the Patriots, but that's about it based on how I've seen this team play. Bork says, wrong cat, D-Hop, yes. Corey D. Jackson says, yes, we can beat. I mean, sure, you could have beat Tampa today too if you had better offensive linemen, but you obviously don't. And, like we talk about this all the time, don't be the team that these other teams get right against, and all they've done is let other teams get right against them. Jason Gerhardt says there's 2 great offensive linemen still in free agency. Why won't they pick them in free agency? You mean like out there right now? What do you – no. If they're out there in free agency right now, they're no good. If they're out there in free agency right now, nobody wants them. So, let's not anybody. Dennis, I almost called him Dennis Dillard. Andre Dillard was the best available offensive lineman. Teams who draft good offensive linemen, don't let them leave. That Andre Dillard was available on the market tells you everything that you need to know. But you needed a left tackle. You needed a body there. That's the market rate for a starting left tackle. You gave Andre Dillard the money. You hoped it worked. It didn't. So, let's I don't even know who you're talking about. 2 great offensive linemen still in free agency. But again, the idea that not one of 32 NFL teams has signed them would lead me to believe that they are probably less than great. All right. Let's keep it moving with, actually, that's going to do it for us because I have to catch a flight. So the Primetime Show is made possible by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com is where you go for your dream address without the stress. Don't sell without the intel that Gary Ashton can provide. Appreciate you guys bearing with me because I do have a flight here from Tampa to come home so I can talk about this damn game for 3 hours on talk radio tomorrow. 104.5 The Zone from 10 to 1. We're going to break it down in a lot more detail. We're going to go through Will Levis. You're going to hear from Mike Vrabel. You're going to hear from Jeff Simmons, who's clearly frustrated. And, we're going to work through this thing together because whether you're along for the ride the entire season or not, I am. And this season is now all about the quarterback. So everything that happens between now and the end of January, basically, or I guess halfway, like the first week of January, whenever the regular season ends, because this damn team's not making the playoffs, is about Will Levis. And we are going to treat it as such here on the Primetime Show on 104.5 The Zone from 10 to 1 on the 615 Sessions podcast on the Install with Greg Cosell. So have a great rest of your night, and I will see you back home in Nashville tomorrow morning.